This is the song that got me through, and I'm your co-host, Anil Maharjan. This week, we spoke to our guest about his real-life version of the movie Across the Universe. That is, if Across the Universe took place on a bus in Lebanon, traveling to see Sting at ancient ruins. We also managed to chat about what it means to be a first-generation immigrant and going back to your parents' homeland. Please note, with this episode and all episodes going forward, we will not be playing any audio clips. Laws are weird. If you have a similar story you'd like to share and want to be on the podcast, submit the form on our Instagram page, or email us, thesongthatgotmethrough@gmail.com. Now, enjoy the show. Hey, Sarah, how's it going?
Hey, Anil.
Yeah, getting better with those intros. So, as I said last week, I stay up to all hours of the night thinking about clever banter we can talk about here. So, I want to know, what is the most ridiculous thing that you have purchased so far while stuck at home?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to say it's my telescope because it's not going to come until after quarantine is supposedly over. And turns out my parents have one that I could have had for free. So.
Oh, a perfect purchase. And you'll probably be getting that back when all the pollution is in the air and you won't be able to see anything.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. That is a pretty phenomenal purchase. Yeah. Well, I have to say I spent $40 on a running water bottle. So that was also a top-notch purchase that I would have never made otherwise. Yeah.
Have you used it yet? Has it come?
No, it's not coming until the winter, so it's perfect timing on my part too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, who do we got this week? Who is our guest?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm Philippe Topchin. So I've known Anil, I guess, 8 years? 7 years?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Something like that. Super excited to be on the podcast, or on the pod, as I've heard Sarah call it, right?
The pod.
The pod. And I guess I should introduce myself, kind of going along with my purchase, which was a smart thermostat, which, unlike your purchases, arrived in 2 days somehow, and I was able to install it myself without breaking the house.
That's the ultimate Philippe purchase there. Like, very responsible, very useful purchase.
I mean, I could just always go and move the buttons, but it was just a purchase out of laziness and wanting to do things from my phone.
Who would want to do that? Actually get up and move around.
Right? Seriously.
So, what backgrounds we need to know about you other than you love ultra efficiency and you don't like to get up that we need to know before we hop into our story?
Sure. So I guess some background. I'm first generation US. My parents born and raised in Lebanon. And so I've been there a couple times. And that kind of ties into the story I have for you guys today.
Awesome.
All right, perfect. And so what is the song that we're going to be talking about this week?
So today's song is Hey Jude. I know, super original, but it is Hey Jude by the Beatles.
So I was going to make a really lame joke and say, who is that song by? And then, Philippe, you ruined it by saying that it was by the Beatles. But I am very interested to hear what your connection to the song is going to be. So what's your story?
Sure. So I'm in Lebanon. I'm 9 years old. It's 2001. And this is like one of these years where you get a whole bunch of schoolwork. I think I might have been in 4th grade or something like that. And you get a whole bunch of schoolwork over the summer. And my parents and the family decided that we're going to spend a month in Lebanon. And so we're in Lebanon, we're spending a month, and my mom's friend ends up having 2 tickets to see Sting. And I know you're like...
Sting in Lebanon?
Yes, Sting in Lebanon. And yes, it ties to Hey Jude by the Beatles.
Okay, all right, perfect. I just wanted to make sure. And this would be like July or August of 2001, right?
Yeah, this is the July of 2001.
Okay.
So my mom obviously says yes, and her friend has 2 tickets. And my mom turns to me and asks me if I want to go. And as a 9.5-year-old, I've never been to a concert before. And I say yes, because, at that age, you like all the music your parents like. No other music. So I say yes, and the way we get there is by bus. So Sting is performing pretty cool in the ruins of Baalbek, which is Roman ruins, and it's about an hour and a half ish drive from Beirut. So we hop on a bus that's carrying a whole bunch of people to see this concert, and people kind of just mingling. I'm sitting with my mom and two of her friends, and
Do you know the background as to how Sting decided to play a concert there? I know that that's totally irrelevant to your story in the end, but I'm just kind of wondering.
so I believe it's part of a concert series. I think Lebanon was trying to promote Baalbek as a as a concert site to try and attract crowds to Lebanon and have it in this open air Roman ruins setting, which is really awesome. Like when you enter the area, you're walking up like tens of stairs, Roman stairs, to get up over the top and then down into the theater area. And it's just incredible how they transformed it into an outdoor concert hall. So I think this might have been one of the earlier concerts to take place in this setting. So part of a summer series they were trying to host over there.
I'm looking at photos of this place, like specifically with concerts going on, and it looks breathtaking.
It's pretty cool. And I mean, we were super fortunate that the seats that we had, first of all, were near the front, but it was all the way to the left. So at first we were super disappointed because all we could see was the big speakers. We couldn't even see anything of the stage, right? So far left. But then the front two rows were reserved seating, and nobody ended up filling them out. So we just got up and moved. So basically, we were the first row, front and center with Sting in this setting.
Wow.
Oh, that's so cool.
Super cool. So, anyways, we're on this bus and we're traveling, and a whole bunch of strangers, and then all of a sudden, two people that know each other, a male and female, break out into song singing "Hey Jude," and I'm like, that's weird. People don't do this in real life, right? And so everyone kind of just stops their chatter and just starts listening in because their voices are really, really phenomenal. Um, and then when it gets to that end part where everyone just starts singing along, um, the whole bus just joins in, and it is just
Was it your
absolutely.
first time hearing the song?
What was that?
Was it your first time hearing this?
No, it was not my first time hearing the song. I'd heard the song before. Actually, the Beatles' number one hits album was my first CD on my non-skip Walkman. Uh, so, but it was around close to the time I learned of it, and it was just incredible to have the whole bus break into song. And this was, to this day, the only time I've ever seen a group of strangers break out into song together, like in a musical. And
Yeah.
so that really, really stuck with me. That mankind can be good. There is some good to humanity. It really was just kind of this pillar, this anchor that there are good people and people can unite, and we can just kind of forget about everything and join over a common cause, which was singing "Hey Jude."
So can you set the scene a little bit more? Like, how many people are we talking here, and how big is this bus?
We're
Because
talking, we're talking like full on like coach bus size. Every seat.
Okay, so this isn't just like six people singing along to "Hey Jude" in a bus in Lebanon. This is like 30 or so people singing along.
Absolutely.
Oh my god, that sounds absolutely incredible. And I have to say, I have to ask, like, did you join along in the sing along?
Honestly, I think I was so mesmerized. I mean, thinking back, I don't know if I did. I think I was just so mesmerized looking around, and the fact that we were in a foreign country, everyone was singing this British rock song in English in Lebanon on the way to ruins to see my first concert. There was just so much stimulus. I don't think I partook. I think I was just overwhelmed by everything that was actually happening around me.
I feel like that would be one way to just get super excited about the concert you're like on your way to.
Oh yeah, it was just so exciting. And
was everyone on that bus going to this concert?
Everyone on the bus was going to the concert. It was just a direct bus. So we got off, and we all got off and started joining in the massive buses that was dropping off people at the front of the massive stairs to climb up and then head down into the viewing area. So that was just really this amazing moment. And then what makes this moment stick out even more in my memory is how it was juxtaposed with something unfortunate that happened later on that evening after the concert. So that was the first concert I'd ever been to, first time I'd ever seen people break out into concert. And when we finally get back at like midnight, 1 in the morning, to my grandma's apartment, we're settling down and I just get into bed. And for the first time, I experienced a fighter jet go overhead and then release a bomb on a neighboring mountain. And then that just completely shook the building and put a pit in my stomach, like frozen, couldn't move, like scared to my bone. And so when I look back upon this day, it's really interesting in my head to have the two sides of humanity, just one where we can be together and it can just be so perfect, and one where it can be so disgusting and horrible, and really leave an imprint. And I don't know, this song always brings me back to both that good and bad.
Was that your first time in Lebanon?
I would say that's the first time I remember. It was the third time I was in Lebanon. I'd been once before with just my dad, and then once as an infant. So I think it was my third time.
Yeah, that first time you remember going to the place that your family is from is already such an unusual experience. Like thinking back to the first time that I ever went to Nepal with my dad, and I mean, I was 20 or 21 at that point. I was much older, but like that, the way that you are already looking at every individual thing that's going on is already in kind of a surreal lens. It doesn't feel like any other day when it's your first time being like in your kind of quote unquote home country. So I can't imagine what it was like trying to digest the experience that you were having, in addition to being brought into the reality of like, this is what my parents grew up with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not imagine. I mean, every now and then, small experiences I have to this day are like, oh, that's why that's a reaction that you have, or that's why that's a behavior you have. Like with the pandemic that's going on right now, I now understand why we always had more paper towels and more cans of goods that we were never going to go through in a couple months, stored in the pantry and in the garage and everywhere you could find a spot. I now get it, right? But like little things that pick up, and as you get more exposed to those cultures and those environments, yeah, it's eye opening.
How did your life change like a month later after that? You're back in New Jersey, you're back in the US, and 9/11 happens. Like how does your life change at that point?
I guess I always went about it with disbelief, and I feel like I still do in a way. Like, when you hear that there's like a shooting down the street, you're like, whoa, I walk there all the time, and what? And it doesn't really sink in. It still feels like disbelief, right? Sometimes, until you've actually been involved with one. So, yeah, it's kind of hard. I know it happened. I know I was frozen. I remember that feeling, like not being able to move, and then finally being able to get myself to move to go ask my mom kind of what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't really translate more. It contributed to how fortunate I feel that my brother and I are, and we are in the States, for sure. But and I guess that's really the impact that it had, because we don't have to live with that.
Yeah. No, that's It's very interesting. Yeah, no, I always kind of wonder, especially growing up on the East Coast, and experiencing that as a kid.
Me being an ever optimist, I'm always shocked whenever humanity can do something evil or bad. And I mean, my 9/11 was, I came home and my mom wasn't at the bus stop, and I was like, "Where is she?" And then I saw her in front of the TV, just shocked and brought right back into the war. Like you can see when my parents get brought right back into the war, when certain things trigger that fight or flight, that protect the family, that thought process. And it's one of those, like, brought her right back to it. So I mean, it makes me more aware of that, more receptive to it, and respectful of it. Um, even even if I didn't have any personal direct effect from it per se.
And how does that how did that first kind of first memory that you had of visiting Lebanon? I know you said it was the third time you'd been there, but really, like, your first distinct memory. How does that shape the way you kind of look, the way that you look at the country now, and how you kind of like think of, and what you think about as you actually go there again? Because I'm assuming you've been back multiple times since then.
Whenever I go there, I see the challenges, but I always focus on the good. Like, we're coming out of a bakery, and uh, a guy walks out with one of my mom's favorite pastries. My mom's like, "Ooh, that smells so good!" And he rips off the part he's bitten and hands my mom the rest. Right? Stranger, never met him, you know. And this was like that act of kindness. So, I always see these glimmers, and I think part of it is I have such wonderful guides whenever I'm there. But even the most recent time that I was there, which was 2 Christmases ago, and that was my first time actually going about with my broken Arabic and figuring things out on my own, with my brother and wife, and that was kind of fun, and that was a whole different experience as well. Um, but even with the bad, there was always so much good to pay attention to. As long as you are aware, like, oh, there's these flags flying in this down this street. Maybe I'm gonna go one more street before I turn. Right? I mean, it's all your situational awareness completely changes.
With how this song resonates, of like reminding you of the good and the bad, has it come back to you in other times of your life when you're like going through a transition or something's happened? Has this song always come back to you, or does it always bring you back to this time in your life when you were there going to the concert and experiencing all of that?
It's one of these songs that I don't actively seek out, but when it does come on, I'm smiling. Um, and it's because it brings me back to the positive of that day, how real life musical kind of happened for a brief moment.
Hmm.
I think I think that the smile that was on your face is because you always have a smile on your face, but that's totally fair.
Maybe I should become self-aware that I'm smiling.
Well, I'm really envious that you got to be a part of a real life musical. That's a fantasy of mine.
I I'm also forever going to believe that, Philippe, you were singing along.
Yeah.
So no matter what you said, I imagine not only that you were singing along, but also that you were breaking out into some sort of dance as well.
I mean, I won't break that mental image for you.
Well, I fully appreciate that. And with all of that said, how do you want people to think about Lebanon? And the reason that I ask that is because, as someone who is Nepalese, I don't necessarily like the way that people think about Nepal all the time. So I'm always interested in how people would want others to think about their kind of like heritage in their home country.
I want people to think of Lebanon as really a melting pot. And despite everything that makes it to the news here in the States, um, the locals there are very proud. The vast majority of the locals are very proud at how they can live side by side with different religions, races, ethnicities. I mean, downtown Beirut has a mosque, a church, and a temple, all side by side of each other. I mean, when we were there over Christmas, maybe less than half of the attendees were actually Christian, and the rest it was just a hodgepodge of everything else. I mean, it's really a beautiful country with so much history uh, from 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 ancient times, really. So much natural beauty, like the cedar forest or the caves. Um, the country can produce the vast majority of the food that they need uh, produce, from a produce standpoint. And it's really amazing to have, you can have snow in the mountains and like beach weather down by the Mediterranean Sea. So, I mean, just good, think of it as good food. The majority of the people are just phenomenal, willing to help, wanting to learn, wanting to learn about your story, and go experience it.
Well, Philippe, thank you very much for telling us your story, and we really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.
This episode was edited by me, Anil Maharjan. My co-host is Sarah Harrison. Additional editing and mixing was done by Chris Maffei at Multitrack Minds. You can check out their full line of services at multitrackminds.com. Special thanks this week to Philippe for telling his story. We asked him what his favorite Sting song was, and he said it was Fields of Gold. That's a very smart answer because his wife walked down the aisle to that song at their wedding. He definitely did not say Desert Rose. 100% unequivocally did not say it was Desert Rose. As always, if you are interested in telling your story, submit the form on our Instagram page or email us, thesongthatgotmethrough@gmail.com. Until next time, don't lose touch.